call the meeting to order. If you could please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, welcome everyone. Today is Thursday, July 2nd, 2020. This is the Town of Riverhead Planning Board meeting. First item on our agenda tonight is a discussion item for 313 West Main Street, LaSala office site improvements. I should mention that we have
Hi,
George
Linda, hang on 1
Gennaro
second.
on teleconference here, besides all the other board members in attendance.
All right, hi Linda, this is Greg Bergman with the Town of Riverhead Planning Department. We've got you on the phone here for the Riverhead Planning Board meeting to discuss the 313 West Main Street application.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna read through my report. I'm gonna read through my report, let the board, if they have any questions, and then we can get some responses to it.
Okay, great.
All right, so the planning department has received and reviewed a site plan application proposing site improvements at the site of an existing office building, with the improvements consisting of additional parking, stormwater management, a widened curb cut on West Main Street, new landscaping, a handicap accessible ramp, as well as a freestanding sign within a landscaping plan. The proposed application is an unlisted action pursuant to SECRA. Coordinator review is optional and not recommended. Staff recommends that the planning board assume lead agency and issue a negative declaration, as the proposed site improvements to an existing facility will not have any foreseeable negative impact on the environment, nor will it negatively impair the character, safety, or reasonable orderly development of the surrounding area. The subject parcel, identified as Suffolk County Tax Map number 600-128-3-47, is a 0.44 acre parcel located on the south side of West Main Street, Riverhead, within the Peconic River Community Zoning District. Property is presently improved with a 2-story frame building, which has a valid certificate of occupancy for a professional office, as well as an existing garage with a letter of pre-existing use. The subject property abuts the Peconic River on the south side. A stop work order was posted on the subject property on June 10th, 2019, as the applicant had initiated site improvements without site plan approval. In terms of what the site plan is proposing, to speak about the parking areas, the site plan currently proposes 2 separate parking areas on the site. An existing asphalt parking area which is located to the south of the building, which proposes 6 parking stalls, and also a parking area to the west of the building, which is proposed, and they propose 5 stalls in that area, including 1 handicap parking stall and access aisle. It is noted on the site plan that it appears to indicate that there's an existing vegetated area located to the west of the existing building that would need to be cleared in order to make room for the proposed 5 parking stalls. During a site visit, it was noted that there was a very large mature tree located in this area. On figures 3 and 4 of my staff report, I took a picture of the tree, and then on figure 4, you can see the tree in relation to the building. Staff would recommend that every effort be made to try to preserve this tree, as there were already several trees which were removed near the eastern property boundary while the applicant engaged in site work without site plan approval. Figure 5, I just showed an aerial. The trees were originally located on the east side of the building. They were removed. So there is a town code, section 301-231L, which in essence states that if the applicant can demonstrate that the off-street parking required is in excess of the parking demand, the board responsible can reduce the amount of parking provided on site by at least 2/3. At least 2/3 of the number of required spaces shall be provided, meaning they can reduce the required parking by 1/3. In such an event, the site plan shall show the total number of stalls, and they have to engage in basically file a covenant that they would agree to expand the parking if the board deems it necessary. Essentially what they'd be doing here would be land banking some parking on that western side of the building. I've spoken to the applicant on this. We need to kind of just see exactly where that tree is on the plan, and if it's possible to kind of reduce that parking and preserve that tree. So being that it's the board's discretion, that's a question that I would...
Is there off-street parking permitted
Town
at that
code-
area?
There is off-street parking, however, town code does not allow off-street parking or parking within any town right-of-way or town property to be included in parking calculations. They're outside of the
But
parking
there's no
district.
sign, let's say, on the street saying no parking?
No, you could
something like
actually, you
that?
could actually park almost right in front of this building, maybe a little bit further.
Okay.
As I understand, as I said, the building does have a current certificate of occupancy. The building is occupied, the building is being used. Right now, I think as I drive by in the mornings, the cars kind of just pile up in that back parking lot, and, they kind of work it out amongst themselves. So really, we'd have to see where that tree is in relation to the proposed parking. But would the board be okay if they could provide a total of 8 parking stalls, which would meet the 2/3 requirement? Would the board be amenable to land banking that parking to keep that tree?
If it's the right size, yeah. If
If-
you got parking here that's, me and parking, I think, go together all the time.
Yeah,
It
you
would
got
seem to
one-
me that on the north side of that new parking area, they could put parking stalls along that curving and get a couple of parking spaces which would, away from the tree.
No, so there's really no, so that dashed line, that's the property line.
No, but there's a curve there.
Well,
Right.
so the curbing is all that parking is proposed.
Yeah,
If you follow the site plan, it does show kind of a tree line, the existing tree line.
yeah. No, what I'm saying is if you save that tree, you gotta provide a couple of parking spaces somewhere else, and I'm saying, on the north side where it's curved, you might be able to put parallel parking, not straight parking, but parallel along the curve.
They may, well, so here's the board would effectively be allowing them to land bank the parking. So they would only provide, let's say, 2 stalls on that side. If at some point down the road, if the parking became an issue, the board would say, the applicant, if they agree to this land banking, the applicant would file a covenant. I believe the language is said, the applicant shall submit a properly executed instrument in a form approved by the town attorney specifying that all parking required by the parking schedule shall be improved upon subsequent findings by the appropriate board. So let's say down the road, if the parking on this site ever became a significant issue, they may say, lose that tree, improve the parking. But this is done as a measure to kind of work with the applicant, try to preserve some of the vegetation on site, while still providing 8 stalls. The size of the building, per the parking calculations, would require 11.
Oh, 11, okay.
If we can get 8 stalls out of this, that's the question I'm posing to the board. Would the board be all right with land banking some parking, providing the 2/3 required by the code, keep a nice mature tree along the Peconic River, and then in the future, if it ever became a significant issue, they could expand the parking to what's shown on the plan?
If the tree is located properly, that's where the handicap spot is supposed to be.
Well, again, so I don't know.
That could be a problem.
Yeah, so the plan does show that tree, I mean,
Right in the middle of 2.
yeah, I mean.
And the other parking stall is 8 feet. The one that's,
Would the board, maybe they could work something out where they preserve it and keep it, put the parking over here.
down in the other area.
There could be, I think there is a way it could be designed by the applicant to
Well,
keep that tree.
let them come back with something.
It is a really nice mature tree. I mean, the shape of it's almost perfect.
So, we'll put it on the applicant, and I'll show, cause it's tough to speak about this, I'll speak to the applicant, show her on the plan, what we kinda have an idea to be worked out. But the spirit of it, if the board would like to see that tree kept, we'll have the applicant work out a plan, come back and demonstrate that.
Could the tree be moved?
I have the applicant's design professional, I think that's a question we would put to the property owner to see if that's something he's willing to do.
But-
I'm sorry, what was that, Linda?
I'm sorry, of course, we'll do what we, need to do to make sure that, we can get this application approved, in a time of the essence, because that's ultimately what we'd like, and I'm sure that's what the board would like as well as, to, have things done in a time of essence to make sure that everything is properly done.
Alright, so I'll speak with the applicant, we'll have them come back and demonstrate the design, but I believe it could probably, based on the location of the tree, they could provide 3 stalls, including a parking stall, preserve that tree, and still meet the parking requirements. I believe, that's in the best interest of all involved.
Can I ask,
Yep, go ahead,
can I
George.
ask a question here?
Yes.
My question is, since this is pre-existing and we already have a permitted use, how large is this building and how many actual spots are required?
So the parking calculations based on the size of the office require 11 stalls.
A total of 11,
A
okay?
total of
So
11.
How many were required when it was originally, given a professional office? Is that changed?
Building permit.
I don't have that information readily available. I do know there were interior renovation permits. I believe they expanded the size of the office inside. I don't know the original approvals.
For the
Okay, so what is it, one for 300?
Hold on, Linda.
It's one
Linda, hold
for
on.
every 300 feet?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Is it one for every 300 square feet?
The parking calculation for office is 1 per 200 square feet.
Oh, one for 200 square
1 for
feet?
200, yes.
So, if we take a look at the layout of the property, it just kind of occurs to me, if you take a look at just the pictures that are here, and I'm familiar with this property to some degree, what about the front of the building? Okay, the existing, if you look at figure 2, is it possible to put parking in the front of that building, and then put a curb cut to the west side of the building, so that cars could go in, park, and then pull out? Is that feasible?
You know what, I'm just looking at the plan, I mean, you've got the sidewalk there are a couple of existing utility poles and existing light poles, which, if we were talking about relocating the curb cut entirely, I think that would, it would probably require the relocation of some of those utility poles. Where they're proposing the widened curb cut now, they eliminate having to relocate any utilities. I'm not entirely sure that you would gain a significant amount if you relocated the entrance.
All right, what about, how much space is there in the area of the rear garage to allow for parking?
Well, so I mean, even if they eliminated that garage, there would still be 2 spaces right up in front of each other. You know, they'd kind of be like
All right.
doubled up.
Okay, got it.
So if the board's good, if I'm reading correctly, if the applicant comes back and demonstrates a plan to preserve that tree, the board would be amenable to it?
Yeah, let's see that.
Alright.
I've seen the back of the building, I'm not really crazy about looking at this, definitely not.
Alright. So moving on from parking, the applicant has provided the planning department with a New York State DEC fresh water permit, as well as a wild scenic recreational rivers permit, valid through November 7th, 2024. It is noted that those DEC permits were issued on a prior revision of the plan. The applicant needs to receive a permit amendment from the DEC to reflect the current plans prior to site plan approval. It's noted that the site plan does not currently propose a dumpster enclosure. However, there is no dumpster enclosure that currently exists at the office. The applicant should just provide a narrative on how they plan to provide refuse collection. There is a proposed sign that is proposed right on State Route 25. It is 0.7 feet from the property line, which would require a variance. I have spoken with the applicant. She spoke with the property owner. He's willing to relocate the sign. It looks like it would be possible to relocate it right in front of the building. That would meet the required setbacks and eliminate the need for a variance. Plan was referred to the town engineer with review and comments pending, as well as the New York State Department of Transportation. Ultimately, they'll need a permit to widen that curb cut and provide any improvements necessary by the DOT. The application will require a recommendation of approval from the Conservation Advisory Council. It is recommended that the applicant obtain the DEC permit modification prior to coming to the Conservation Advisory Council. Referral of the application to the Suffolk County Planning Commission was not required based on the size of the project. In terms of next steps, staff would recommend that the applicant submit a plan, revised plan demonstrating the parking and preserving the tree, as well as receipt of any DOT permits, CAC approval, and the DEC permit modification. Based on the scope of work, staff would recommend this be handled administratively, as the proposed site improvements don't really warrant a public hearing. Board have any other questions, anything they want to discuss with the applicant?
No, does it sound good to, Linda?
Linda, does everything sound good to you so far?
Yes, of course.
All right.
What was the penalty for taking the trees down?
The site plan application fee needs to be doubled, which, I mean, it's not a significant site plan fee, so, yeah, it's just, they gotta double the site plan fee pursuant to town code. All right?
Yep.
Think we're good? All right, Linda, we're good. I'll be in touch and we'll address, what we spoke about tonight.
Great, thank you so
All
much.
right,
Thank you.
Thanks, Linda.
Okay, next item on the agenda, Villas at Roanoke. Major subdivision proposed off of Sound Shore Road.
Hi, Jerry, this is Greg Bergman with the Riverhead Planning Department. We've got John in the boardroom for the Riverhead Planning Board meeting.
Hi, Greg.
Hi, we're gonna discuss a quick discussion about the Villas at Roanoke LLC preliminary plat for the 14 lot major subdivision. Just gonna, bring the board back up to speed, for a while.
I would like to add Pete to the call, just give me a second.
All right, that's good.
The mic goes off in just a second, and, we'll be back on.
All right.
1 second.
Let me say something on this about, Greg, about putting fencing around the back of the lots.
Yeah, we have discussed that, yes.
Hey, Jared. Okay, Pete, you there? Yes. All right, you're with the planning board, Greg is on.
All right, just for the record, could you both just state your name, please?
Gerald Simone, S-I-M-O-N-E. And Peter Shembri, S-C-H-E-M-B-R-I.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. What I'm just gonna do, I'll just bring the board back up to speed on where we are. Just to refresh your memory, we have a major subdivision application which proposes to subdivide an 11.1 acre parcel. It's located on the south side of Sound Shore Road, which is in Jamesport, New York. The parcel is split zoned RA40 and RA80. The planning board has reviewed this application before in a yield map approval phase as well as a sketch map approval phase. The as of right yield map of the property was determined to be 6 lots. That was approved by this board by resolution number 2019-46, dated June 6th of 2019. The planning board then approved a increased density yield map, which utilizes transfer of development rights. They were proposing to import 7 TDRs onto the property to increase their development yield to 13 lots. That 13 lot TDR yield map was approved by the planning board by resolution number 19-107, dated November 7th, 2019. And the planning board finally did approve a 14 lot sketch plan, which was submitted by the application. The 14th lot was a lot that was added in order to comply with the Long Island Workforce Housing Act. The act basically states that when a developer is proposing to maximize the density, they get a density bonus of 10%, so they got an additional lot, and that lot has to be preserved in an affordable status, which is defined by the Long Island Workforce Housing Act. So that is the history of how we got to the 14 lot proposed development of the property. At this point, the applicant has prepared a preliminary plat. They have submitted it. We have referred it to the town's consulting engineer. We have not gotten his formal comments back yet, so I won't get into any of the engineering of it at the moment. But we are here. We do have a resolution on for this board to consider adoption tonight. That would schedule a public hearing on this preliminary plat for the first meeting in August, which I believe is August 6th. And that's kind of a synopsis, a snapshot of where we are up to this point.
Yeah, hi guys, Ed Denseski here. Just curious, is there any more talks going on with the county about the preservation of the property?
Okay, so, Mr. Denseski on the board asked if there were still any conversations with the county about preserving the property.
Yes, I actually, I just spoke to Janet Longo yesterday, and they had appraisal sent out, like 3 months ago, but from what I'm understanding, funds and Mr. Krupski, I think they had the approval to go forward with it because of, when they voted on the piece, and that's how they were able to go out and do appraisals. They got the appraisals in, but they can't review the appraisals with us until, the county controller, transfers funds into that part of the sector of the county. So we're just waiting to hear back from them on a final number on their appraisal, and then go from there. But as of right now, the funds gotta be put into the account, for purchasing, and it's not in there yet.
Any idea when?
That's where we're at. I spoke to Janet yesterday. She's waiting to hear on how long this is gonna take. She doesn't know. She said, Pete, just keep going forward. If anything, get the maps done. This way we can get you more money for it, hopefully, as time goes on, as they, just kinda linger. I guess there's a shortage of funds, out there in the county, and, they're just kinda, trying to delegate where the funds are going. But realistically, like Janet said, these are funds that were strictly taken in by the county at closings for the past X amount of years, and for the year of 2019, those funds are already there for this purchase. But for whatever reason, the money hasn't been allocated yet. So she goes, until it's in the account, it can't be discussed with you, because we can't make you an offer on something we don't have the actual funds right at this moment. So I wanted to have that information before you guys, so when I spoke to Janet, that's what she told me. But our intentions are exactly what we said, to go forward with the county, but we don't know where we're at with them, because of this. So they won't disclose what price they're gonna pay us.
Does the county require a final or a preliminary approval before they would give you the funds?
So Mr. Bayer asked if the county would require like a preliminary or a final approval before they give you the funds.
What it is they like to know that the project is, going forward, because that's where the funds, they look to preserve pieces that, they feel, that's on the chopping block for development. They try to take that out, and this piece of property is surrounded by county land already. So this piece of property is like they're part of the puzzle on that whole Sound Shore Road, when they bought the rights, for North Fork Preserve. So they've slotted this for the purchase, but it's even more so as we get closer towards a final map that this is taking place, you know. And the
Okay.
value is actually gonna increase as fast as we can get this approval, squared away, 'cause the value of the lots become real at that point.
Okay, so we plan on scheduling the public hearing tonight, but understand that we didn't get our comments back from our consulting engineer yet, and there could be, you know, something more pending until we hear from him.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, but I truly believe, Stan, that this project it's one road in. I mean, there's really nothing there that's of any substance to make this be like a problem. Just to the east, there's the private road with the 5, 6 houses that are there, and they're on the exact grade. So it's a developable piece. If there's comments that we have to address with Vinnie, we will. But I don't think there's anything. There's no cliffs. There's no drainage issues. There's really nothing there that would, stop any type of development. But anything he asks us for, we'll do. You know.
Okay, fair enough.
We're hoping this doesn't come to play at all. Like Janet said, they really want it. It's a time thing for them. But she goes, continue what you're doing. Yeah, she goes, it's really about the fun. She goes, just continue what you're doing because it's going to make it more of a priority for us when the funds come up. So I said, okay, I'll relay the message. She said it's that important. She goes, there's other pieces that are out there, but they're just pieces that are in the middle of nowhere. Really, there's farmland all around it. It's a piece in the middle of a farm that's not going to be developed anyway that a farmer wants to sell us. But your piece is a whole different animal. It's money that we've already allocated all around that piece. So we'd like to keep that whole section as one and not have development start right next to it if possible. She goes, but we get it. We've also got to, do their part to get it squared away with the county.
Right, there's TDRs involved with this project, right?
Correct.
When do they have to formally propose those to us, at what point?
I believe, I'd have to double check the section of the code, but I believe prior to signature of the final plat. So before the chairman would affix his signature to it, they would have to go through the TDR process, obtain the TDRs.
They don't have to have them before the final approval.
No,
By us.
I believe they need to take care of that step prior to signature of the map. And without the signature of the map,
Right.
the map doesn't go anywhere, it doesn't go to health department, it doesn't get filed, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, just realistically, the question is, me and Jerry are still on board. We're 99%. We'd like to transfer it to the county. That's been our goal from day one. It's not something we really have to develop. We'd rather not. And I think the way things are financially, I think the county could probably justify a number that would satisfy us. We don't need to build it. And I think we'd all be happy. I think, the county wants it. You guys would love to see it preserved. And we'd like to sell it to them. I think it's a win-win for everybody. Unless something drastic happens and the county, can't come up with funds, but I don't see that happening. Of course, like when I spoke with Janet, she said the funds have they've already collected the money from the taxpayers for preservation. So where can the money go? It's there. So, it can't just disappear. They're hoping that this gets ironed out. Mr. Krupski's working on it.
So Pete, you understand our position. We all want to see it preserved also, but,
Yeah.
our concern is what you just kind of alluded to slightly there, but if something happens. So if that something happens, we have to treat this as if it's being developed, so we really have to handle it in that manner during the approval process.
No, and I get that, that's why I was saying, the project itself, it's not a problem job site, I mean, the site's beautiful. You couldn't ask for a nicer site, I think we all agree to that. There's nothing there that, engineering, structurally, that would, deter anybody from building there. So, whatever the comments Vinnie comes back with, there's really, I don't believe anything he'll say that is a deterrent. I think,
It's gonna stop.
Right? Yeah, I mean,
Greg?
it's a good piece of property.
Stanley, you're saying that, I couldn't really hear you before, were you saying that without any comments, you don't wanna put it on for a public hearing?
No.
No.
Is that what I heard?
No, he basically just relayed the fact, which has kind of been consistent all along. It was kind of the question of, but if the county doesn't purchase, if something falls through, this board is gonna be looking at this map and this approval as if it's going to be built. So you would have to as you said, you'd have to satisfy any engineering comments, satisfy any conditions that would be, imposed on the approval, whether it be grading, drainage, et cetera. This board would have to approve it as if it's gonna be built. We can't approve it conditioned upon sale to the county.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, okay, it's fine.
Greg, do they have DEC approval on that wetland?
That's actually not a DEC wetland.
Oh, it isn't?
It's not a DEC wetland nor a town regulated wetland.
Oh.
And honestly, when I walked the property, I didn't see any water there. It could just be like a drainage thing. But again, they'd have to address that issue through it would need a stormwater pollution prevention plan, and they would have to satisfy that to all the requirements of the town drainage
Okay.
code. So, from here, guys, I don't think there's any objection to moving forward with scheduling the public hearing, with the understanding that, any engineering comments that are pending will have to be addressed prior to any approvals.
Okay, that sounds fine. That's good. Yeah, okay, great, so.
Can anybody give Vinnie a nudge so we know it goes off?
I've been in contact with Mr. Guardiola, we're expecting those comments very shortly.
Okay.
Okay, will you send them over to us, Greg, as soon as you find out what they are?
As soon as I get them, I will forward them right over to you.
They'll go to Cody.
Okay. Great. Okay, good.
All right.
And that'll be the first meeting in August, you said?
Yes, sir, I believe it's August 6th.
So they have to do all the posting?
Yes, and you will have to post the property, and you will have to do the required mailings, which you will get a package of information about that process.
Okay. That's fine.
All righty?
Okay, guys. All right, I think we're good, right, Sheriff?
Yep.
Everybody's
Just
good.
wanna be clear that when it has to be
Okay, guys,
posted by.
thanks for your time. Appreciate everything.
All right, you guys, and as I said, you will get a package that details all the information about required posting times, requirements for mailing. You will get that in the mail to you.
Okay, and then when that time comes, at that meeting, if we have to do it the same way we just did it, we'll just do it the same way we've done it now?
I believe for public hearings, I believe it's gonna be held via Zoom, but I'll discuss that with you, after the meeting.
Okay, that's fine.
All right.
Okay, guys, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you,
it,
guys.
Okay?
Thank
Good
you.
night.
All right, thank you.
Good
Okay.
night.
Bye.
Okay, we are up to public hearings, and the public hearing for Bates and Barrels has been rescheduled. It had not been posted, in time or properly, so we're actually gonna reschedule that tonight for, August 6th.
Greg, did they receive a package, or?
Yes, they did.
They did,
Yeah,
okay.
they received the package. I know Jeff Murphy spoke with the applicant's design professional. They didn't, it was noticed that at the date that it needs to be posted, they hadn't picked up the signs to properly post the property.
Did they realize that now, or?
Yes,
Okay.
they're very clear.
Okay, just wanna make sure they were clear.
Yep.
Okay, Carissa, did we get any comments on resolutions?
No comments on resolution.
No comments, okay. All right, resolutions.
Resolution number 41, authorize the clerk to publish and notice for rescheduling the public hearing for Bates and Barrels.
Second the motion.
Motion made and seconded to approve Resolution 41, to schedule a public hearing for Bates and Barrels. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Resolution is approved.
Move resolution number 42, the Villas at Roanoke, to schedule a public hearing. So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve Resolution 42, Villas at Roanoke, to schedule a public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Resolution is approved. Okay, public comment on all matters. We did receive one, Carissa. What was the gentleman's name?
John Cullen?
John Cullen. Mr. John Cullen commented on the villas at Roanoke.
Correct.
And he urged us to support that property being preserved, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so that will be part of the record. We've all
Which we do.
received it. We agree with those comments, and hopefully it works out that way. But for the record, his comments were received. Just a couple other things. The board had received a request. There was a Water Conservation Committee form to go over some possible code changes. They asked for planning board comment. We did provide comments, but I just wanted on the record that, you know, we were asked for our comments, we provided them, and if there was anything else, they're probably gonna be scheduling public hearings to go over that code revision. So if there's anything else, fine. If not, we.
Yeah, I do have some
Okay.
comments on that too. Not to get into it tonight, but, you know, just things on, you know, in my opinion, this is a Band-Aid. We need more wells. You know, and they put in here things like constraints on water supplies due to climate change. There's a couple things, and I think some of this is gonna be expensive to do, but I'll wait for the proper time, stating that.
Okay,
So you and Joe commented on this,
yes.
nice
Yeah.
job.
Thank you. I mean, I had similar concerns as Ed, you know, this is a good start.
Yeah.
I think you won't really see the benefits of this, you know, if it is approved by the town board for a long time, over a long period of time. And, you know, if there's a dire need to conserve water right now, you know, and I wrote it, they really should do, mandate odd even watering, because you get an immediate effect from that. But as Ed said, you know, if these projects are coming and the zoning's in place and the master plan is gonna continue to allow this kind of development, they really need to invest in the infrastructure of the water district and put in these wells and put in this storage tanks and invest in the system. So again, I think it's a good start, with good intentions, but, you know, if things continue the way they are, they may have to really consider a mandated odd even watering schedule. But again, that's up to the town board to decide, and they've asked us to provide our comments, which we did.
And I think they've gotta go a lot further with smart controllers. They should mandate them for every building, and even every building improvements, because they're not expensive. Couple of $100,
Yeah.
and you can save, the homeowner can save 25 to 50% of their sprinkling costs. And that's a guarantee. How is your, smart controllers doing?
Good. We do track them.
Yeah.
You know, we did a pilot program with them about 3 years ago. We actually, anybody who installed it, they got a credit on their water bill.
You still have that?
Not the credit. The credit was really for them to incentivize them to install them.
Yeah.
And once they proved to us from a licensed plumber and land irrigation professional that they did it, they got a credit of $100 on their water bill. And we track it over the years. We share it with various agencies, and, you know, you can clearly see that they conserve water. But you really have to quantify it, because, you know, if one summer you get a lot of rain and it
That's
looks
right.
like it dropped off, it's really not a true picture. So you gotta have a little bit of a history there to track it. But they do work.
Oh,
They do
yeah.
work.
Are you putting any more in? That's what I was wondering.
Well, we're not offering the incentive anymore,
Okay.
but we encourage people,
Yeah.
through our newsletters or mandated conservation efforts in that area. And some people do, but, you can't force people unless it's mandated. You know, and then you have to enforce it and do the inspections. And the difficult part is somebody who does a modification to their irrigation system, you know, they don't always call for an inspection or notify the water department or water district that they're doing it.
Right.
So it's difficult. But it saves them money,
Yeah.
and they can still have a green lawn.
Wanna move the minutes?
Just one other thing. We received the notification for Riverhead Solar 2. I guess it's the sighting board on that Article 10 solar project. And I didn't know Jefferson wasn't gonna be here tonight. And I just wanted to make sure, perhaps Carissa, you could pass along a message that, you know, hopefully we're gonna be providing comments for that. Okay, so yes, the minutes, June 18th.
I'd like to move the minutes of the Riverhead Planning Board for June 18, 2020. So moved.
Second.
Second?
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve the minutes of June 18th. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Minutes are approved. So we did speak about the water conservation, draft local law. We did receive the correspondence for the record. Any other business the board wants to discuss? No?
Have a nice 4th of July, everybody.
Enjoy the 4th.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Next meeting, July 16th at 3
Three.
o'clock. Have a nice holiday. Thank you.
A frantic 4th.
Take care, George.
Good night, George.